welcome back for another G.I. Joe Classified review. This time it is Grunt. So finally, one of the first vintage figures, and we're finally getting him in the Classified line. Not sure why it took so long, but he looks great already. So Robert Grunt Graves, he is number 87 in the line. Lovely artwork here on the back, that nice rendered image, really like that. All of his accessories and then some close-ups. Standing at 6'3". He's a big guy, and then his QR code and all his particulars, so he does really look great. This is how much I paid for him. Picked him up from the Big Bad Toy Store. So let's open it up, have a look. Okay, here he is, Grunt, out of the packaging with all of his accessories. And he does come with a good amount of accessories. Starting off with an alternate helmed head, combat helmet, 2 assault rifles, a pistol, ammo clip, combat knife, and a backpack. So taking a closer look at the accessories, starting off with the backpack. This is the kind of backpack I really like. Very, very simplistic, very, very nice and clean. It's just this simple olive green, just a few pockets here and the buckles for the straps. And then 3 pegs, one obviously for the back and then one for each assault rifle. So you can just pop them in, 1 and 2. Very nice. I like it when you can get almost all of the accessories, if not all of them, on the actual figure themselves. And while at it, let's take a look at these assault rifles. So starting off, I'm not too familiar with weapons. I think this is an M60, not 100%. It does have a removable magazine. It is nice, just very, very simplistic, this matte black. They do continue to use this soft material, Hasbro, when it comes to their weapons. For the most part, this one is fine, but when we have a look at this one, you can see that this one is really, really warped. And that is a shame. This one is definitely a nod to the laser rifles that the Joes have in the Sunbow cartoon. Yeah, so I do like that. It is a shame that it's warped. More and more of the accessories that I get are bent. Most of them can be fixed with a little bit of heat, but regardless, very nice, straightforward matte black. No moving components on this, and then the nice olive green for the stock. And then we have a straightforward combat dagger. So you can actually, in fact, I'll do a loadout in a moment. So just a straightforward gunmetal silver, gunmetal grey, and then the matte black for the handle. The sidearm, this is, I think, new. I don't know that we've seen this yet. Interesting that they are including the actual hole in the chamber, so you can get the muzzle flashes in. We only have a few muzzle flashes in the Hasbro Classifieds line. I think they came with the 3 Vipers, so maybe we'll be getting some more, but it's nice to have that included. And then moving on to the helmet. This at first I thought was a reuse from the heavy duty Roadblock, which I have here. But you can see they are different. They are completely different. Sculpting is totally different. The colour is different. Even the coloration in the straps are different. The only thing that is the same is the straps. They are, I think, the same piece in terms of sculpting. At the back they look a little bit different, but the actual straps themselves, yeah, they're pretty much identical. But other than that, they are totally different. So well done, Hasbro. Very, very surprised. And this does fit very nicely onto Grunt. And then we come to this, the alternate head. This is obviously a callback to that mail-away figure from the 80s, the Steel Brigade. That's it, the Steel Brigade. So this is an interesting piece. I don't know that they are allowed to call it Steel Brigade anymore, because the new figures that were released, they're not called Steel Brigade, they're called something else. But this is a very nice inclusion, and one of the great benefits about this figure is the head sculpt, which I'll look at in a moment in more detail, but it's so good that you could pop this on Falcon if you have Falcon and you're unhappy with that sculpt, and just have this on your shelf. So really, really nice touch there. And then we move on to Grunt himself, and I'm so pleased that this figure turned out the way that it did, because this is obviously a character, but it would double up as an army builder, and as it stands it just looks so nice. Quite simplistic if you think about it. There's only really 3 colours going on here. You've got this soft or rather light olive green is the majority of the body, and then you have these darker green accents for the boots, and then some for the pouches, the knuckles, and then more pouches on the jacket, and then obviously you have the flesh tones, but that's about it. There are some bits and pieces and variations here and there. You've got the communication device that we've seen with a lot of the Joes, and then he has this flip down like a heads-up display. This I guess would be all of his vitals, and you can see there some very nice paint applications. If you can just see that there we go. So it actually does have a screen, and they've gone to the effort of actually putting some readouts on there, and that is articulated, so it's nice to have that. You can just be looking down at it. And then in terms of the actual figure itself, this is a completely pinless figure, so a newer figure. There probably is some reuse going on here, but nothing really that I can identify straight off the bat. In terms of the actual pouches, I don't know that we've seen these before. These pouches are really nice. This one looks like some sort of field first aid kit. Got the zipper down the side and then a buckle on the top, and that's just strapped to the leg. And then the other side is something similar, but these are more for spare magazines. On the back, you can see he has a pouch on the belt, and then a holster here for his sidearm. The jacket is completely separate, so I guess you could clip that off if you wanted to. I'm certainly not going to do that. It looks quite straightforward underneath, but it is worth pointing out, if you can see that, the very simplistic look of Grunt underneath is so iconic, and it's a callback to what Grunt was like, that original Grunt. I never had Grunt. He was, I think, in the first wave of vintage figures, a little bit before my time, but I have seen him, and he's just a very straightforward, simplistic green, and that is exactly what they've got here. So if you did want to cut that off, I'm pretty confident that he'd look pretty good underneath regardless. And the arms are really well done. You can see that he has some pouches here, that deeper olive green, and then just the straightforward matte, and it is all matte. There's no high gloss here, so it is really nice. I prefer the matte look of the figures. And then the head sculpt. Look at that sculpt. Where was this when we had Falcon? I unfortunately am one of those people that didn't like the Falcon head sculpt. I don't know that many people did. There was something definitely off about it, and I'm really pleased to report that you can actually take this off, pop him on Falcon, he gets his beret on, it looks really good, and then you can just use that that Steel Brigade head sculpt for this guy, and you know, they're both going to look great. So it's a win-win there. Okay, as he comes with so many accessories, I'm just going to do a quick loadout. There we are. Look at that. That is a cool looking figure. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the articulation for Grunt. As I said earlier, he is a completely pinless figure. Starting off with the head, he gets down to about there and then up to about there. Completely independent on the peg at the head and the neck, so you can get a full range of motion from the base of the neck as well. Butterfly joints for the shoulder, so you get complete rotation. Bicep swivel. double jointed elbow, and then complete rotation at the wrist for the peg, and then forwards and backwards as well. At the waist, he does get a decent amount of ab crunch for a figure with a jacket, so you get all the way down to about there, and then back to about there. He has the rolled off hips, so if you manipulate the belt, which is a floating piece, it doesn't hinder it at all. You get complete range of motion. Drop down legs, and then he does have a thigh cut. Also pleased to tell you that the pouches are in a nice position, so they don't restrict that thigh cut at all. Double jointed knees, and then he has the boot cut, and then a rocker and a pivot at the ankle. So Hasbro have done well here. Some of the figures I've had recently, articulation is good, but they've just been put together a little bit weird. I had one figure, I can't remember which one it was, and I'm confident that the leg was on back to front. I think it was Bazooka. So Grunt is very well done, and the articulation stands up. And finally, for anyone that's interested, here is what Falcon looks like before and after his face transplant. There is some very, very subtle difference between the flesh tones, and he does fit a little bit too snugly, so you have to manipulate the scarf. But if you want to pose up Grunt with this alternate helm, then this makes a fantastic replacement for that ugly default Falcon sculpt. Okay, so a couple of things I forgot to mention and only just discovered when I was posing him up. First is, I don't know if this is by design. Looks like you can actually use the sheath for his dagger either that way or that way. Not sure if that's deliberate. Second is on the back, this pouch here, I didn't realise it actually does have a hole, so you can actually get the magazine for his additional assault rifle in there. So nice touch. And a slightly negative note, I noticed that the paint applications for the hands on the inside are non-existent. So you can see the brown has just gone all the way onto the inside of his fingers. So it's not a big deal because you're going to have him holding something, but yeah, that's something I just noticed. Okay, so my final thoughts on the G.I. Joe Classified Grunt. Hasbro really did well with this figure. It is almost a perfect figure. I say almost because of that slight paint application issue, but as it's on the inside of the hand, I really can't hold that against it. Everything else is spot on. They've taken that original Grunt and they've modernized him without losing some of the originality. It also has the tribute to the original cartoon with that laser rifle and the inclusion of the Steel Brigade helm. So you've got a few options here. If you're only going for individual characters, then you've got Robert, Grunt Graves, or you can get multiples and have an army builder at your hands. So it's such a great figure. They've really put a lot of attention to this one, and I'm really happy to have him in my collection. Fantastic figure, and when you have figures like, unfortunately, Shockwave, that was a little bit disappointing, and then you get a figure like this, it just really captivates me. It keeps me going with this line. There are some hits and misses, but this is definitely a hit, and I can highly recommend it. So that about wraps up this review. I certainly hope that you have enjoyed it, and if you have, then please do give this video a like and consider subscribing. And until next time, take care.